Hello and welcome to Convention Reviews. I'll be reviewing Nekocon 2023. This is a convention that is held in the Hampton Roads Convention Center in Hampton, Virginia in early November. This is a kind of an interesting convention in the sense that it is one of the older conventions for Virginia, dating back to 1998, according to animecons.com. This particular Nekocon being the 25th anniversary, which is pretty special, all things considered. They've only had one cancellation over the years due to the COVID pandemic. This particular weekend was a little bit on the cooler side, but relatively speaking, not too bad overall for a early November convention. Yeah, for this convention is pretty interesting. Essentially, it's a two-level convention center on, as well as Artist Alley, the merchants booth, main events, several panel rooms. Something that does actually make it a little interesting, they also have a workshop room as well as a manga library. Also is that they had a massive selection of books, not only for reading, but also for sale as well. Which really is nice because I believe they also were contributing to the Humane Society as well as their own organization, which was really a nice touch overall. Interesting thing I will say is there was a few Itashita cars in the parking lot over the weekend. Here's one that I did manage to spot. This is sort of starting to become a growing trend in a lot of anime conventions where people will trick out their cars. Throughout the convention, there were also a lot of really good cosplay throughout the convention, all 3 days, and I managed to get a couple of really good pictures of some cosplayers as walking by in the hallways. The game room for this particular convention was on the second floor, and actually it was pretty interesting. So they broke it up into two portions. One half essentially has a lot more video game oriented titles with everything from classic Japanese arcade games to console, as well as a lot of VR also, which was a really nice touch. I'm starting to see that appear a lot more conventions as time goes on, and especially for like a smaller convention like this one, it definitely is a good way to kind of test it out without being in line for like over an hour. There's also plenty of pop and rhythm games as well as Dance Dance Revolution as well, which are always con favorites. Alley as well as the main merchants booth. The guest signatures were also in Artist Alley for this particular convention. I do have to say that, relatively speaking, for a smaller convention, it actually had a really good turnout for both artists and mainstream vendors alike, which really is something you don't see that often, especially for smaller conventions. But it is also the end of the year, so it might be just the fact that there's not a lot of competition on the East Coast right now for a lot of artists and vendors, so that might also contribute to why there's better than average selection. One nice feature for this particular convention is that there was actually a lot of nearby hotel rooms as well as places to eat, well within walking distance, although a lot of people did drive. I will say there also were a lot of vendors across the street from the convention center that also were selling different kinds of food, which was really a nice touch to have for a lot of attendees that just want to stay on site. Another thing I really like to comment on is the fact that there was, relatively speaking, a lot of open space for a lot of the convention scene. There really were very few events that really got full to capacity, which I didn't really experience until like about Saturday afternoon, but mostly for a select few panels, as you can imagine. One of the other things I will say that I did really enjoy about this convention was that a lot of things that oftentimes I will say a lot of younger fans tend to overlook were really well on display on this particular convention. One thing I really like to point out is the AMV contest was really amazing. As somebody that really enjoys AMVs but has not really had time to really sit through a lot of them over the years, really was a treat. It really is cool to see like a lot of the tools of the trade being kind of put off for this particular convention, which was really fun. One of the things I will say is there were also a lot of very interesting panels at this particular convention. The general theme was Magical Girl, but I will say there were really only a handful of panels that were technically Magical Girl in spectrum. I will say that a lot of the panels actually were very interesting in the sense that they covered a lot of things from webtoons, which I really don't see a lot of people talking about. I know it's grown a lot in popularity, as well as some other interesting things from the authors for people that are, inspiring writers and creative artists to, go out there and make their own stuff, which, like I said, not typically what I see at an anime convention, but certainly engaging content to say the least. Overall, I'd say, this is a really great convention to visit. Really chill, kind of end of the year. Overall, I would say price-wise was not that expensive compared to a lot of other conventions that tend to be in the Virginia, D.C. area by comparison. And like I said, it's just sort of a fun, 3-day weekend if you have the time for it. And will definitely say I would recommend anybody looking for a convention to check this one out. Once again, this is Convention Reviews, reviewing Nekocon 2023. Thank you for watching my video, and stay tuned for the next one. Bye.